Hello everyone, I'm Chirag and welcome to part 4 of the tutorial series on Amazon Textract. So guys, in this video I will take you through on how to extract the text from a multi-page PDF file and how we can save the output as a CSV. And as a part of the CSV, we will have two columns which are page number and the text. So we will store the text of each page as an individual row along with the page number. So let's get started. So we will go through this diagram first, as you can see on my screen. So I will quickly explain you the overall flow. So here we have the PDF file. So the user will upload a PDF file to the S3 bucket within async-doc-text directory or a folder, which will in turn trigger the Lambda function, which would be responsible for creating the Amazon Textract job. So here we are going to perform simple OCR or detect document text, but since we are dealing with the multi-page PDF file, this is going to be the asynchronous invocation. So earlier what was happening is that while we invoke or call the Amazon Textract service along with the details of the file that we have uploaded, we instantly get the response back from the Amazon Textract. But in this case, since this is going to be an asynchronous invocation, what this Lambda function will do, it will simply pass on the details or the reference details of the file to the Amazon Textract, and Amazon Textract will return the job ID as a response. Okay. So this Lambda function is basically responsible for creating the Amazon Textract job, and it will pass on the uploaded file details. Correct. Once the job is created, Amazon Textract will perform the desired operation. For example, in this case, it's an OCR that we want to perform. And once that job is completed, it will store the response into the S3 bucket, which is in the Textract-output directory. So this directory name can be anything, you can change if you want, but in this case, or for the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to keep it as Textract-output. And now once the job is completed, the response is stored into this S3 bucket, and then it's going to send a notification to the Amazon SNS. Now how this Amazon Textract will know that after the job completion, it should send a notification or a message to the Amazon SNS? It's because while creating the job, we will also pass on the configuration of the SNS topic, right, to which we want to send the notification or a message once the job is completed. Correct. And then once the job is completed, it will send a notification to the SNS topic, and this SNS topic will trigger the Lambda function, that is a process response, right? So this Lambda function is responsible for processing the response that is being stored in the Textract-output directory in the Amazon S3 bucket. Correct. Now to deal with the CSV file, we are using pandas as a package, which does not comes inbuilt as a part of the Lambda function runtime. So that's where we are going to utilize Lambda layers for the for deploying pandas, and then we are going to attach that Lambda layers into this Amazon Lambda function. Correct. So I have already covered a tutorial on how to create the Lambda layer for the pandas package in one of the previous tutorials. So I will post a link of that video in the video description if you want to refer that in detail. But in case if you want to just follow along with this video, then I have already uploaded the package for the pandas library. That is for Python runtime 3.9, right? So I had already uploaded that, so you can even utilize that as well. Okay. Now this Lambda function will process the response, right, that is being stored in the Textract-output directory, right, based on the job ID that it will have. And then once the response is processed, this Lambda function is going to store it as the CSV file in the Amazon S3 bucket in the CSV directory. So basically this is the overall flow that we are going to follow throughout this video, and at this point of time we are going to create all the resources manually. Correct. But at the end of this video, I will also share the CloudFormation template, which you can utilize to deploy these resources automatically using that CloudFormation template. So stay tuned. So now let's get started. So the very first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to create the Amazon S3 bucket. So navigate to Amazon Management Console and search for S3 and click on that. Now, once you are within S3 management console, we are going to create a new bucket. So I will say create a bucket. I will give it a name. I will say Textract hyphen async, something like this. Okay, process. And then I will say create a bucket. Now the bucket is created successfully. Here it is. Now within this bucket, we are going to create 3 directories, which are async doc-text, where we are going to upload the file. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, create folder. I will say paste it over here and say create folder. Now the next directory is going to be the Textract-output. So I'll say copy, again create a new directory or a folder, say create folder, and finally the third folder in which we are going to store the CSV file. So I will simply say CSV and say create folder. Now here we have successfully created the Amazon S3 bucket along with the directories that we need. And now as the next step, we are going to create the SNS topic, correct? So SNS topic is over here. So go back to Amazon Management Console, click on Services, search for SNS, click on that. Now here we are going to create a new topic. So I will say topic from the left panel, say create topic. I will say standard, give it a name. I will say Textract async notification, and then I will leave rest of the option as it is and say create topic. Now here we have successfully created the SNS topic. Now here we need to even create the subscription for this topic, but that is something we will do at later point of time after we create the Lambda function. Okay, so we will come back in a while over here. Now as the next step, what we will need permissions, right? So that's where we are going to search for IAM, and we are going to create 2 roles. Now once you are within IAM management console, click on roles from the left panel, say create role. Now one role we are going to create for the Lambda function. So here within the use case, we are going to select Lambda as a service because we are creating this role for the Lambda functions. Okay, so we will create a single IAM role for both the Lambda function. So for that we will need AWS Lambda execute, This will basically give permission to the S3 bucket as well as the CloudWatch logs. And then finally, we will also require permission to create the job within Amazon Textract. So that's where we will also need permission for a Textract. So here I will say Textract full access, but you can also opt out for service role, but you need to check whether this permission suffice. Okay, I don't think it suffice to create the job within Amazon Textract because within action it only says SNS publish. So we will go on with the Amazon Textract full access, but I think you should consider creating the custom policy for this instead of giving the full access until and unless it's necessary. So I have also covered how we can create the custom policy in I think one of the earlier tutorial. I'm not sure in which, but I will see if I can post the link of that video in the video description so you can narrow down the permission over here as well. Okay. So now once you are done with the attachment of the permission policy, say next tags, I will leave it as it is. Say next review, give the role name. I will say Lambda underscore Textract underscore async. Okay, something like this, async. And I will say create a role. Now here we have successfully created the IAM role for the Lambda function. In fact, for both of the Lambda function. Now we need to create another role. Now this role would be responsible for giving permission to the Amazon Textract to publish a message to the SNS topic. Correct. So now after the job completion, this Amazon Textract need to send some notification or message to the SNS topic, but for that it will require permission to push or send the message to the Amazon SNS, right? So that's where we need to create another role for this. Okay, so here we are going to select Textract. Let me search for it. Here we are, Textract, and we will say next permission. And here it will list only one role, that is Amazon Textract service role. But due to some reason, this role does not work because Amazon Textract is unable to send notification to the SNS topic. So what we will do is we are going to attach one more set of permission here. So let me create this role first. I'll say Textract underscore SNS permission, or maybe I will say async and say create role. Now once the role is created, let's open this role, and once you are there, click on attach policies. Here I am going to provide SNS permission, so that is Amazon SNS full access. Again, you can create the custom policy for this instead of attaching the full access. So now here we have successfully created the IAM role for the Lambda function as well as for the Amazon Textract, right? Now as the next step, we are going to create the Lambda function. Okay, so we are done with the Amazon S3, we are done with the Amazon SNS topic, but we need to revisit it later for creating the subscription. Now we are going to create this Lambda function along with the Lambda layer. Okay, so let's first create the Lambda layer. So navigate to Amazon Management Console, search for Lambda, and navigate to Lambda Management Console. Now once you are there, click on layers under additional resources from the left panel, and once you are there, say create layer. Now here we need to provide some configuration like name, so I'll say pandas underscore 3 underscore 9 underscore Textract, something like this. Now here we are not going to upload a zip file, instead we are going to upload a file from Amazon S3. So I already have that zip file uploaded in the Amazon S3 bucket, so let me open that. Now here I have created another bucket earlier, which is reference bucket code, and within this I have this pandas-39.zip. okay, so I'm going to copy the object URL and paste it over here. Okay, now in case if you want to reuse this zip file that I have created, then what you can do is you can navigate to this repository, that is aws-tutorial-code, and within that I have the zip file that is pandas_39.zip. so you can download this and upload the zip file to any of the S3 bucket, and once the file is uploaded, you can copy the object URL and use it as a reference within Lambda layers. Okay, and if you want to go through the detailed video of how to create Lambda layers, then I will post the link of that in the video description. Okay, now here we have a new option, that is compatible architecture. So this is optional, but I will go with x86_64. okay, and within compatible runtime I will select Python 3.9. okay, if you want to learn more about this compatible architecture, then you can click on this info, right, and it will give you the description of what exactly it is. Okay, and say create. So here we have successfully created the Lambda layer for the pandas library. Now as the next step, we are going to create the Lambda function. So navigate to Lambda Management Console and say create function from the top right corner, and give the function name. I will say Textract underscore async underscore job creation. Okay, so this is our first Lambda function. If we look over here, then this is our first Lambda function over here. Okay, where we are going to set the trigger, and within runtime we will say Python 3.9. architecture we will say 86_64. within permission we are going to select use an existing role, and we will say Textract, that is lambda underscore textract underscore async. This is the same rule that we have just created before some time. Okay, so say create function. Now here we have successfully created the first lambda function. So what we will do is we will also configure the code source, or we are going to copy and paste the code from this repository. So here I have two files. One is responsible for creating the job and other one is responsible for processing the response. Okay, so let me check async response process. This is the second lambda function. So we are going to open this lambda function or the file and we are going to copy this code and paste it over here. Paste, save, deploy. Okay, so here we have successfully configured this lambda function and we have also copy and pasted the source code. So this is basically responsible for creating the Amazon Textract job for whichever file that we are going to upload. Okay, but apart from that, we also need to configure the environment variable, okay, which is output bucket name, where we want to kind of store the output. And do we have any prefix that we want to add? So prefix is going to be the textract-output, that is the directory name. And then we are also going to pass the notification channel, which is SNS topic ARN as well as the SNS role ARN, right? So we are going to copy and paste the IAM role ARN for the permission. Okay, so let's first configure this environment variables. So let me open configuration, say environment variables. I will say edit over here. I will say edit environment variable. Oops, let me open the lambda function in new tab as well. So I can copy and paste the environment variables. So the very first is output bucket name. So say copy, paste it over here. The output bucket name is Textract async process, right? Because we want to store the response of the OCR within Textract-output directory. So that's where we are going to copy and paste this bucket name. Then we are going to add another environment variable, which is output S3 prefix, which is going to be the Textract-output, right? Within this directory, we need to store the response. Another environment variable, which is SNS topic ARN for the notification channel. So from here, we will get the ARN of this topic. So I will say copy and paste it over here. And finally, we need to provide permission to the Amazon Textract so that it is able to send the notification to this SNS topic ARN. Right, so that's where we are going to copy and paste the ARN of the Textract underscore SNS underscore async role that we have created earlier. So copy this ARN and paste it over here and say save. Now here we have successfully configured the environment variables which we will need to execute this code. Okay, so here we will get all the information within this code, and finally on line 22 we are defining the Boto3 client of the Textract service. And then we are checking if there is an event, then we are fetching the file information, right? Like bucket name and the file name. And finally on line number 30, we are using textract.start document text detection to create the job within Amazon Textract for extracting text from whichever file that we are going to upload. Okay, and within this we are passing the document location, that where is that file, in which bucket, and what is the file name. And the output configuration, that means where we want to store the information after text extraction. So we want to store it in this bucket with this prefix. And finally, once the job is completed, do we want to send the notification somewhere? So we are saying yes, send the notification to the SNS topic that we have created. And here is the permission to send the message or whatever notification, right? And finally on line 35, we are checking if it returns status code 200, then it says job created successfully, else it's going to return 500. and we will say job creation failed. Okay, so that is the high level of this code, right? And finally, we also need to add the trigger over here, which is the S3 bucket trigger. So we will say S3, select the bucket name. So the bucket name is Textract async process. We will say event type all job create events, and we will add the prefix, which is async doc text. Okay, because we are going to upload the file in this directory or in this prefix, and then suffix we will say it should be .pdf. Okay, and we acknowledge over here and say add. Okay, so the very first Lambda function that is over here that we have configured successfully, and we also have the Lambda layer. Lambda layer is something that we will require in the second Lambda function, which is responsible for processing the OCR response. Okay, so now as a next step, we are going to create another Lambda function. So click on functions, say create function, give the function name. I will say Textract response process. I will select runtime as Python 3.9, architecture is x86 64. Within permission, we are going to use an existing role, and we are going to select the same role that we have created. Okay, that is Textract, that is lambda underscore Textract underscore async, and say create function. Okay, now here we have successfully created the Lambda function. Now let's copy and paste the source code from our repository. So here I have another file that is Lambda async response process. Okay, so open that, and we are going to copy this code, and we are going to say paste it over here, save it, say deploy. And finally, we will also need Lambda layer, because here we are using pandas to deal with the CSV. You can use any other package if you want. Okay, but I have used pandas. So to attach the layer, you need to scroll down to layers. Okay, and say add a layer, and here select custom layers. From the custom layers, select pandas underscore 3 underscore 9 underscore Textract that we have created. Okay, so select version and say add. Now here we have successfully added the Lambda layers. Okay, now let me quickly take you through this code. So here we are using OS, JSON, Boto 3 and pandas package. Okay, and on line number 18, okay, we need to set some environment variables. So this bucket name is going to be this one, that is Textract -async process, and this prefix is going to be the CSV. So this is the information about where we want to store or upload the CSV after processing the response. Okay, so let's quickly configure this environment variables. So here within configuration, we will say environment variables, and the very first environment variable is bucket name. I'm going to say copy, say edit, add environment variable, paste it over here, and the value is going to be the bucket name that we have created as a part of step 1. Okay, that is Textract async process. Paste it over here. The second environment variable is the prefix. Say copy, add environment variable, paste. We will say CSV. Okay, and save. Okay, so here we have successfully configured the environment variable. Now on line number 21, we are fetching the job ID. So from where we are fetching the job ID? From the notification or the event that we will receive from the SNS topic, which will contain all the information about the job ID. So that's where we will get the job ID from the event. And once we have the job ID, we are calling the process underscore response method with the parameter as job ID, and it will return the lines, right? So for example, the text of page 1, then page 2, page 3. Okay, so let's quickly have a look at the process response method. So here we have that method which accepts job ID. Then we have created the Boto3 client of the Textract service. Okay, and then on line number 47 we are calling a method that is get document text detection, which will accept the parameter as the job ID, and it will return some response. Okay, and once the response is returned, we are appending that response to the pages. And then so for example, sometimes the response is quite large or quite big, so that's where it will return the next page token. So if there is a next page token, then we have to loop through that response again. So we need to again call the get document text detection with the next token parameter to get the response of the next page or the next set of response. Okay, so that's why we are checking if there is a next token in the response, then we are setting next token as whatever the next token is within the response. And if we have next token, then again we are going to loop through that, right? And we are going to keep calling get document text detection until and unless the response does not have the next token. And once we keep getting the response, we are going to append the response in the pages. Okay, and finally on line number 65 we are looping through the pages and we are appending the text, right? Page lines, and finally we are returning page lines over here, that is on line number 23. Okay, now once we have the response, we are defining the CSV file name. So we are going to have job id.csv as the file name, and then we are defining the data frame using page underscore lines.items. So it's going to be a dictionary along with, I think, page number with the reference of whatever text it has, right? And then finally we have df.columns where we are saying the first column is page number, the second column is the individual text. And then on line 28 we are storing that CSV file to the temporary storage, that is /tmp/ whatever the file name is. And finally on line number 30 we are uploading that file to the specified S3 bucket with whatever prefix that we have defined. And finally it returns status code 200, that is file uploaded successfully. So this is the overall flow and the high level overview of this Lambda function. Now as a next step, I think only one step is remaining, which is to set the trigger on this SNS topic. So we will go back to the SNS topic that we have created and scroll down to subscriptions, say create subscription, and here the protocol is going to be the Amazon Lambda function, and the endpoint is you can search for that Lambda function name, that is Textract. Okay, I think we need to reload this. So the Lambda function name is Textract response process. It should be here. Create subscription. Okay, let me go back to the topic. That is Textract async notification. Say create subscription, protocol, Amazon Lambda. We'll say Textract. It is over here. Oops, it's not showing. Okay, let's copy the ARN of this Lambda function and paste it over here. I'm not sure why it is not showing over here. And finally we will say create subscription. I think, is it the permission? But I think it should trigger this Lambda function. Let me quickly check it out. It's a topic. I will publish a simple message. We'll say test and say publish message. So I'll say view CloudWatch logs, and here we are. It is able to invoke the Lambda function, so I think we are good. Okay, so here it threw an exception. Obviously it was expected. Okay, so I think we are good, and I believe we have implemented the end-to-end resources that we have defined over here, and we have also set the trigger that is required. So now as the next step, we are going to upload a file which is the multi-page PDF. So here I have this file that is culture_wikipedia.pdf. So I have randomly saved the culture Wikipedia page as the PDF. So here we have basically 11 pages, right? So what we expect is that the CSV should have 11 rows, right? And each row should refer to the individual text of this page along with the page number, right? So we also expect that it should be in sequence. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are going to upload this file to the S3 bucket. So I'm going to open this S3 bucket, and within async-doc-text directory, we are going to upload this file. So I will simply drag and drop over here, and then we will monitor whether all of the components are working fine or not, or if there are any issues. Okay, now I will say upload. Now if we look at the architecture diagram, so here we have uploaded the file. Now as a next step, this Lambda function should get triggered. So we are going to check the logs of this Lambda function, whether it is working fine or not. Okay, so let me quickly open that Lambda function as well. Now here we have that Lambda function, that is Textract sync job creation. It should be async basically. And we will say monitor, say view logs in CloudWatch. Now here the file is uploaded successfully. Now this Lambda function should get triggered. And as you can see, we have the logs over here. And here we have the bucket name and the file name that we are printing. And I think it has created the job successfully within Amazon Textract. Okay, now let's go back to the architecture diagram. Now once this will be completed, it's going to send the notification or a message to this SNS topic. So we are going to look at the logs of this Lambda function, or we can also look at the Amazon S3 bucket, which is the Textract-output directory, whether it has stored the response or not. Okay, so we will have a look at it. So the next step is to open the Lambda function. That is another one, that is Textract response process. And we will say monitor view logs in CloudWatch. So as you can see, the another log is created, and it says task timeout. Okay, we need to increase the timeout of this Lambda function. So I think it has failed at this point of time. So let's click on configuration, say add it within general configuration, and here we will say 10 seconds. Okay, I think it should suffice. And then we will say save. Okay, let's also have a look at the S3 bucket. Let me close this, go back to Textract-output, and here we should be able to see the response that is being stored over here. Okay, so I think the pipeline is working fine, except for the part that the second Lambda function got timeout. So let's try again. Let me re-upload the file, and it should trigger the pipeline. Say upload. Now the file is uploaded successfully. Let's have a look at the CloudWatch logs. Reload it. So here we have the second invocation, right? And the job has been created. Now we will have a look at this Lambda function invocation. So here we also have the third invocation, and it has started. Let's wait. So as you can see, here we have also printed the response, right? So here we have the page number and the respective text within the row. Okay, and I think it ran successfully. And I think now we can go back to the S3 bucket and have a look into the CSV directory. So let's download the latest one, and let me open this. So here, as you can see, here we have the page number and the respective text, right? So we can verify it as well. So if we look at the first line, so it starts with the Wikipedia culture, and from here culture is an umbrella, and it goes on, right? And then within second line we have that are transmitted through social learning and human, right? If we look at the third page, it starts with etymology, okay, and so on. So let's quickly have a look at the last page as well. that is page number 11. So here we see culture, for example, people who are raised in the culture, and it should end with, oops, I cannot scroll. Okay, maybe I think I need to open this file with some other editor so that we can have a look at the full text. Maybe what I can do is, let me see, I can open with Sublime. Okay, here we are. So if you can see, 11 of 1921, 8:56 p.m. If we look at the text at the very end, so here we have date and time and the last line over here, right? So here we have all the text line by line for the respective page along with the page number that is being stored as a CSV within S3 bucket. Okay, so basically this is how you can perform OCR on the multi-page PDF file and save it as CSV. Now, as I promised, I am going to share the CloudFormation template with you so that you can directly reuse that CloudFormation template to deploy these resources and you don't have to do it manually. Okay, so I have another repository that is AWS CloudFormation-template, and within that I have this file that is textract_async_lambda.yaml. Okay, so you can download this or clone this repository and reuse this CloudFormation template as per your requirement. Okay, so it basically accepts 4 parameters. So that is the code bucket name. So while using this CloudFormation template, you need to upload the zip file of the code of the respective Lambda function to one of the reference S3 bucket, and then you need to provide the reference of that zip file within this parameters. So I will quickly show you that as well. So I'm going to close all this and I will open CloudFormation. So we'll search for CloudFormation. Okay, so I already have that template file or the YAML file locally. Okay, so I'm going to say create stack. Now here I will say upload a template file. I'm going to choose a file, and here I have that file that is Textract async lambda. I will say open, and it will perform few checks, and then you can say next. Now as a next step, you need to enter the stack name. So I will say temp Textract async, something like this. And here we need to provide the parameters, that is code bucket name. So I will open S3 management console from here. So what does it mean by code bucket name? So here I have this bucket that is reference bucket code. Okay, so within this bucket I have all the code for the Lambda function 1 as well as for the Lambda function 2 and the zip file for the Lambda layers. Okay, so within this bucket I have all that resources. So I will say this is my code bucket name. Then here I need to enter the S3 key reference for pandas layer. Okay, so that is going to be the async doc text, and this is my key reference. So what I will do is I'm going to copy async-doc text /pandas 39.zip. Okay, so here is my pandas zip file. Now I need to copy and paste the S3 key reference for the Lambda code, that is for Lambda function 1. So that's going to be Lambda function, this one, Lambda function async detect text. Okay, so copy. So you don't need to provide the full S3 URI because here we have already mentioned the bucket name. So here all you need to do is copy and paste the prefix and the zip file reference. Okay, same goes for Lambda function 2. So here it is. So in case if you have a question that how did I created this zip file, so what I did was I have this code over here, right? So I created 3 zip file. So one zip file for this Lambda function, another for this one, and this one we already have as .zip. Okay, so all you need to do is you just need to rename this function as Lambda underscore function, I think. Okay, so just verify the Lambda function file name. So it's going to be lambda function.py. So you need to save it as lambda function.py, and then you perform the zip operation upon it, right, and upload it to the S3 bucket, and then you can pass on the reference of that zip file and this parameters. And once you're done with this, say next again. I acknowledge, say create stack. So now it's going to take some time to create all the resources. So let's wait. So now as you can see, the stack creation is completed. Now we can click on resources and we can have a look at all the resources that is created. So the very first thing that we are going to do is open the S3 bucket. Okay, because within this bucket we will not have all those directory, so we need to create it manually as a first step. Okay, so I'm going to say create folder. I will say CSV, say create folder again. I will say Textract -output. Okay, say create folder. And the third one, let me quickly check, async. Okay, the third one is going to be the async doc-text. Say create folder, paste it over here, say create folder, and we are done. Now we are good to upload a file to this directory. So let's upload it, drag and drop, say upload. Let's have a look at the other resources. So now it's going to trigger which Lambda function, detect doc Lambda, this Lambda function, right? So let's have a look at the CloudWatch logs of this Lambda function. So here we have the code as well, along with the environment variables configured for us. Yeah, and then click on monitor, say view logs in CloudWatch, and we should have logs there. So as you can see, it is triggered successfully. Now let's have a look at the another Lambda function, that is the parse Lambda, and click on monitor. If the job is completed, then this Lambda function would also get triggered. And here we are. So we have this logs and it ran successfully. As you can see, we have the text as well. Now we can go back to the S3 bucket, have a look at the CSV directory. Go back, CSV, and here we have the CSV as well. Let's download it. Let me open in Sublime. So here it is. We have all the 11 pages along with the text line by line. So at this point of time, I have stored all the text in the list, right, string of list, but you can play around with this and you can parse however you want. Okay, so basically this is how you can perform OCR or detect document text upon multi-page PDF using asynchronous invocation. And this is how you can store that information page-wise in the form of CSV using pandas as a Lambda layer. And I had also shared the CloudFormation template, which you can reuse as per your requirement, as well as the Lambda function code and the pandas Lambda layer zip file. So you can reuse it as well. So guys, that's all for this video. Until that time, if you want me to do tutorial on any use case or service, then please leave them below and I will try my best to come up with the tutorial as soon as possible. And if you have any queries or comments, then again please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.